Hello everyone, this is Daniel and welcome to the 12th part of this character creation series. So moving on now, we will look next at... I should have thought about that before starting the video, but let's do the arms here. I won't sculpt them this time. I think what I want to do here is to separate... Let's see. Let's actually just go ahead and separate the arms. Let's go just for these two parts here for now. Separate them. Select them in edit mode and separate them to a separate mesh, so a separate object. And let's add a subdivision surface modifier. I will move the it doesn't really matter. Let's just move the subdivision surface before the mirror. It doesn't really matter actually. And now I will go ahead and add some detail here. So we can turn this up a little bit to 2, and here's my reference. Just while looking at the shape here and the details, I'll try to give it some of these additional details here. It is pretty easy for the upper arm. I'm just going to extrude this a little bit, scale it down a tiny bit, extrude it again, right click to leave it where it was, scale it down a little bit, and maybe with this ring hit G twice to slide it a bit. I'll use Ctrl B to bevel it, to kind of offset these two edges a little bit. Then with Ctrl R I will insert a loop here. You can scale this down now a tiny bit, and that gives us the first edge. Yeah, in object mode I'm going to right click on the object as well and set the shading to smooth. Now you can decide for yourself if you maybe want to add another cut here. I think that might be a good idea actually, so I'm going to do that just to give it a nicer, more even transition. And yeah, you can think about how deep you want to make this as well. So that's the first one. Let's see if... Yeah, I'm actually going to keep this subdivision levels on 1 for now. We don't need to go into too much detail at the moment. And we're going to take a similar approach on this side. So let's insert subdivision here, or insert a loop cut. I'll bevel it. I'll take this part, extrude it, and scale it down a little bit. And then I'll also insert a loop here. I'll insert a loop with about the same distance over there and scale this part down. Now there we go. This is one part now detailed. Let's move on to the next one, which is this one here. Again, with a similar approach, let me just confirm the details very quickly. So this time, what do we have? It seems like, yeah, okay, we definitely have another ring in the beginning, but a less obvious one on the bottom. I think, yeah, I think I know what I'll do here. Let's take this here on the other side again, and I'll get started. So I'll extrude this one out and go inside of the other mesh just so that this is really stuck together. I'll extrude this one more time, hit the right mouse button to release it, and scale it down like this. You could also alternatively just undo 2 steps. You could hit the I key and inset it with that, like this. Then I'm going to, similarly to before, add another loop cut here. Let's see, how large do you want this to be? You know what, actually I will try to use this ring here instead. Let's see, bevel it. I'm going to bevel this one like this, maybe make this a little bit wider, insert another loop cut here, and I'll scale this one down again as well. So maybe select the entire part now, and I will just try to move it a bit down, a bit out, so that this rim is a bit more visible. But that should give us a nice effect now. It might even be a bit larger. So we can eyeball this pretty much. Whatever looks good in the end is correct, so Yeah, really don't stress too much about it if possible. Just make sure you compare it often enough to the reference to make sure not to have any oversights there. On this end, we'll also extrude it and scale it down, or just inset it with the thing I showed you before. It's pretty much the same effect. Possibly inset would be better because that will give us a more even rim. So I'm going to use this one. I'm not going to inset it too much because this time I'll extrude it one more time here and inset it one more time to give it a nice rim. Let's isolate this part for a second so that we can look at it more carefully. And we need to add another loop around here, I believe. Let's make I don't like how this is getting really thin here, so I'm going to move this out manually, and these two a bit more as well. And then if this still isn't showing enough, you can bevel this one as well a little bit with Control B again. Or we could just use Shift E and crease it, but I think I'm going to use bevel here so that we have some additional topology as well. It's a bit of a tricky spot since it's very fine detail mostly. Maybe this is not the right approach. What if we turn up the detail here? Is that still what we want to do? It's also a bit too fine. Okay, I did mess up a little bit here, so let's try to fix it. I'll scale this down a bit more. It's just a bit too fine, the details that I created. Like they just shouldn't need to be this fine. I want to make them a bit rougher, a bit more visible. So I'm just going to maybe move the entire thing out a little bit more, make this more visible. There was no need for this to be so subtle in first place. And now let's try to get the curvature look nicer. Maybe we can even use Alt-S to bring this inwards a little bit and move it down as well. So that gives it like a nice ending to this part. And then one more time, maybe scale this down, scale this up. I think this looks a lot nicer already. But feel free to play around with this. There's probably no correct answer, or look a bit more at the reference. But I think from the little information that we have here, what we created looks pretty okay. I mean, in the end, we'll probably lay a separate part on top of this either way, so it's not too important. But that looks a bit better now. So let's leave isolation mode one more time. That looks pretty good to me. Maybe we can scale it up a little bit more. I'll also make sure that it's nicely aligned, that it's not off-center. Let's look around there, and that looks all right now. I want to try one more thing though. Let's try to smooth this part. Let's take the smooth tool, smooth it down a little bit, and then use Alt-S to inflate just a tiny bit. I'm hoping that this makes it a bit smoother, a bit more organic. I didn't like how it felt very constructed right now, so I'm going to leave it that way now with those little modifications. That made all the curves, a little bit organic, a little bit messy, a little bit less accurate, but that's exactly what helps us convey this sort of the natural feeling of the character. Now for the arm still, let's separate this object as well. We'll have it in a separate part for now. I'll start by using Alt-S to inflate this part, and then just use G twice to bring these two sides in again, to make this cylinder a bit larger for now. Actually, let's bring it in more, and then I will hit E to extrude, scale it down a bit, and extrude it like this. Maybe scale it down a bit less, like this, and we'll do the same thing on the other side. A bit more maybe. So this is not going to be accurate anymore, but then again, I don't think a character is ever perfectly accurate, and it's maybe a good thing to break this sort of constructed feel. I'm also going to add a subdivision surface modifier one more time, just as we did before, and we can begin to add some subdivisions here like this. Just extrude it and scale it down. Select maybe these edges here, and I'll bevel them all together like this. Try to keep it a bit smoother, not too hard. We'll smooth the shading in object mode. Maybe we can scale down this entire part here. We'll do the same thing on the other side, roughly. It seems like we have an extra loop here that I didn't intend, so we'll delete this one. That looks better now. Let me check quickly. The only part that maybe will change is these two loops. Select them and scale them down like this. That will be the only part that I'll try to make a little bit, well, just make the edges a little bit harder. Maybe the better way to do it is just to move them in like this. But yeah, in this section I want it to seem like this is actually a different part, as if this part is going inside of the other. So I'm going to invert these two lines to make it look like these things are actually stuck together in a way, or as if this is like an axis for the joint there. And on top here, maybe shift this loop a little bit more to the side to make it softer. Alright, that looks good now. It seems like we have a lot more detail in this region as well, but I'm not sure if I want to do it in this part. Maybe we'll do it with sculpting first or something, but I might just leave this one as it is for now. It is already good enough of an indication of the details. Later on we'll just have to add, you know, the additional details and maybe add a little bit of a window here with the mechanics inside. But it's a good starting point, and we're taking it one step at a time, right? We don't need to go from draft to final in one go. So just, you know, add a little bit of detail, and let's move on to the next parts. We still have some time in this part. Let me quickly save this file. Okay, let's save it. I hope I didn't overwrite anything. I still need it. And next, we could just go ahead and look a little bit at the... Should we look at the feet? I think I might... Let's do the fingers, actually. I might want to think a little bit more about the feet, so I'm leaving that for later. But the fingers, they could be a bit challenging as well. So I'm going to take a copy of one finger and move it to the side. And we'll start to work on the copy here. Okay, this is still part of the body, so maybe let's just hit P and separate this into a separate object so that we don't accidentally mess up anything. Now I'm looking at the fingers here. They're kind of squared off, but then at the same time they have like these ridges and also softness over the entire thing. I'll try to imitate that a little bit now. Maybe we can start by selecting these two and beveling them like this. We'll do the same thing down here, bevel them like this. Then I'll add a loop cut with Ctrl R to all of these. Then I select them all. By the way, we always used this menu for the pivot point, but I realized that it's also available up here, so you can find these things here too. This time I'm not going to use 3D cursor, but instead individual origins, and if I scale now, they will scale individually, so that's something I'll quickly do here. Actually, no, let's not do that. I have a better idea. We'll set that back to median point. I will just merge these together. Merge at last. That's a better idea, I believe. Merge at last, merge at last, merge at last. So yeah, that's a nicer shape. Now we can go ahead and yeah, we might have to just connect these here. So I hit K now, K for the knife tool, and I'll click on the first one, on the second one, and then enter to connect these like this. Otherwise we won't be able to use loop cuts around here, so something we need to do quickly. And with that we'll now be able to cut like this, which is what I wanted to do. Cut like this as well, maybe twice. I just want to make the vertex distribution very even, so that we can then use smoothing a lot more easily. So I have now a bunch of subdivisions everywhere, and we could try to now use the smooth tool, and you see how it kind of smooths everything off. We could do it in 2 stages. Do it once, like by 0.4 maybe, then I'll select only the tip, and I'll do it a little bit more, select a bit less, select a bit less. Just want the tip to be very smooth. And finally, I'm going to select all these edges around, and maybe, should we bevel them? I'll try to bevel them maybe. And this will mean that we'll likely have to do something here like this. And we can do the same over here as well. Should we have done it maybe the other direction around? Maybe the other side would work nicer. Something like that. That gives us some additional points to smooth as well. So let's select the entire front here one more time. Select the smooth tool and just drag out a little bit here. Smooth it out. Finally, I think we lost a little bit of volume here, so I'm selecting the entire tip and Alt S to inflate a little bit. And one more time, select the entire thing, maybe inflate it a little bit, maybe smooth it a little bit. At this point I'm just trying to get it a bit more organic. That looks nice. We can do some additional details in sculpting later, but that's a very nice space to get started with. Maybe one thing that I want to do still is to bring these up a little bit. And we can then select these edges and use the relax feature to get it a bit more pointy. Can also do something similar here. Relax, maybe relax this one as well on the other side. All right. Maybe that was too much. Let's undo that. That looks good to me. Now it would be nice. I mean, let's just shade it smooth. This actually also shows me that maybe we should add another bevel here to make this a bit sharper. So let's select these two and bevel them one more time. But now it's time to move this back to where the finger originally was. So I'll just select the entire thing and bring it back here. Now it's a matter of copying to the right positions. Maybe select this part for now, go here to the object properties and then to viewport display and change from display as textured to display as wired. And now you can easily go in there to apparently scale it up a little bit. Yeah, the end seems to be a bit of a problem as well still. We could try to move the entire thing a bit more to the front, but then also I think we need to select this entire back and just move this closer to here. I do want to see like the end a little bit. We might want to connect it in a different way later, so let's just make it touch here at the top, and we'll worry about the transition a bit later. Now I just copy it over, scale it a tiny bit down for the ring finger, make the rotation line up. It's a bit tricky, but just hit R or R twice for a different rotation mode, but make sure you look from various angles so that you get the alignment right. And in fact, I think my draft was a bit off here in this regard, so I'm just going to redo that and to not perfectly look at what we had originally. Don't forget that you can easily select an entire part by hovering over it and by hitting the L key. And then I'm just going to spend some time aligning that. That can take a few moments. But as I mentioned, you can hit L to select it all, Shift D to duplicate, R to rotate along the view, and R twice to get all the other axes that you couldn't get with just R, basically. And the thumb will be a bit of a need a bit of a modification because it only has 2 joints. Now what I'll do here is I'm just going to take away everything below here. So you could just delete maybe this loop like this, then with L select the entire lower half and delete it, and then you need to fill this in still. So what I like to do here is hit F3, go search for grid fill, and then is that the right way of connecting it? I think it would be better if oh, actually I just figured out this is still n-gons here. Anyway, you can change this number here, that seemed alright, or the offset. And I'm going to set it to here, and the span needs to be set to 3 in my case, so that will connect it like this. You can also hit simple blending here if you want the other effect. Maybe we'll just turn this on for this case and smooth it up a bit, and that gives us now the thumb. So now I'm just going to have to place it correctly, and that should conclude the fingers pretty much. Yeah, I'm actually going to use this outer line as a reference instead of the inner line that I used so far, so we'll need to quickly go over all fingers again. And it's quite hard to hit these, so I'm going to leave it for now, but I'm pretty sure that I'll be going back and forth to this over and over and fix the rotation until I can't find anything strange anymore. So setting this back to texture, I'm just going in here now and I'll delete the fingers since we don't need these guides anymore. Yeah, see, for example, now it stands out to me that this is a bit tilted, maybe needs to be out more like this. So you don't need to fix it all at once, but just over the time, as you find little mistakes, go in and quickly correct them until you can't find any mistakes anymore. Is this better? I think this is better. Alright, no, I still want to touch it a bit. Try something to make it look nicer. Yeah, this is better now. Well, I guess he just has a hand like this. It might look a bit strange, but this is pretty much what his hand looks like, isn't it? Has this very strong curve. I'm a bit unsure about the last ring finger, and pinky finger. I feel like they're twisted too much. This doesn't look very natural, does it? I feel like they need to be more like this. Even though it doesn't perfectly align with the cylinder there. So we'll have to play around a little bit with that, and we can definitely cheat our way through a bit by, you know, changing it a little bit, the twist as along the length of the finger. But hopefully that's a bit better now. It's quite a tricky part. I hope I'm not repeating myself too often. I'm quite focused on modeling, and so I don't sometimes realize what I'm saying. Well, I'm sure you'll forgive me. It looks a bit better now. Almost. Something just keeps bothering me here. Maybe it's rotate this a bit out after all. Yeah, it's a good chance that we have to do another pass of fixing here before we add further detail, but it's good to have something in place which we can just improve instead of having to work from scratch later on. Alright, I'm going to leave it like this now. So yeah, we have reached a good amount of time again. I hope you're enjoying it still. It's quite a long process, I know, but nobody ever said that characters would be easy. So again, I hope you enjoyed, and leave your questions in the comments. I will see you next time.